welcome to Careers in Fashion, our career conversation for this week. My name is Erin O'Day, and I'm here with my colleague Aileen Axmeyer. We're both career counselors up at University Career Services, and today's program is designed to introduce you to a few folks who are out there in the fashion industry doing a variety of different jobs and who have a wealth of knowledge to share with you. So we're going to start off by introducing them. They're going to tell you all a little bit about themselves and what they do on a day-to-day basis, how they got into the field, why they love it. And then we're going to open it up to you all to ask some questions of them.
So first we have Nash. She worked for Sakara, which is a PR marketing firm right here in Boston. We have Kristen. She's a Northeastern alum, and she works for TJX. And we have Jennifer. She works at Puma. And we have Sonia. She's also a Northeastern alum. So we're going to start off by whichever person wants to kind of take the lead.
My name is Nash. I am the owner and managing director of Sakara. We have two locations, one in Boston and one in New York. And what we do is we represent emerging designers, emerging accessory designers, and our job on a day-to-day basis is to get them placement in national publications around the country, international publications, get them placed in stores all over the world, so domestically and internationally, get them on celebrities so that people will be interested to buy the product, and then also get them on television shows. So we work exclusively with emerging designers, and that's what I do.
Hi, I'm Kristen. I work, as I said, for TJX out in Framingham. I am an associate buyer for home goods. So what I do on a day-to-day basis is meet with vendors and negotiate the great deals that you see in our stores. I also keep an eye on emerging trends and try to get the latest and greatest things into our stores.
I'm Jen. I work for Puma. I'm an associate merchandiser for all team sport product in the United States, so that's footwear, apparel, and accessories. Team sport being soccer, which is the most popular, rugby, handball, those are cricket, those are most European. So basically what I do is help decide what we're going to sell in the United States to wholesale. So you think of Dick's, Nordstrom, Champs, Foot Locker, all of those big wholesales. And then I work with my international team to develop more product that we would make specifically in the United States. It's a lot of number crunching, but I get to play with product too, so it's fun.
Hi, I'm Sonia Crowley. Currently I work at Reebok. I'm an apparel product developer, and on a day-to-day basis I take the apparel that was from the design and actually get it produced. So it's a lot of spec sheets, recoloring, working with the graphic artist, and then in turn I work with the sales team and merchandisers just to make sure everybody's on the same page and the product is getting developed on a timeline. And there's also lots of changes that happen, minute by minute, whereas one day they want red, black, and blue, but by the time the order needs to be shipped, it's now yellow, green, and purple, and then we have to get it changed and get it shipped on time correctly.
Sales is really my background, but I worked for a retailer here in Boston that was called Next. It used to be on Newbury Street 100 years ago, and I was their senior women's buyer for all 6 stores in the U.S. They decided to close their U.S. operation, move all stores back to the U.K. There's about 400 stores in the U.K. I worked for a very, very tough CEO who put me in the position very, very quickly because I was selling a lot on the floor. And it was a tremendous opportunity. I was the buyer for several years. And she, because her and I had a good relationship, she worked for a woman named Linda Walkner, who was instrumental in sort of launching Gap and Speedo here in the States a long, long time ago, and taught me a lot about buying and what consumers look for, and that you can't buy for yourself. You have to buy and really know who your consumer is. She gave me the heads up about a year in advance that the company would be closing U.S. operations. So I had been a fan of magazines my entire life. Since I was a little kid, I used to read Mastheads when I was 10 years old. So I was newly married and decided to take $1,000 and start my own magazine. So I started a magazine here in Boston in '96 called Platinum. It started here locally in Boston, and it grew to from a regional-based publication to an international to a nationally based publication, rolled out on newsstands across the country, and then eventually into 24 countries internationally. I killed myself during that time. The company grew quite a bit. I always feel like that was my true education when I started that company, because I had no idea what I was getting into at all. But I thought that I could do it, but hope is not a strategy. So, but it worked, and I was able to sell the business in 2003, took some time off, and then I launched Sukara in 2007, really as a celebrity placement business, because I had a lot of contacts from the magazine, and then it sort of organically grew into PR and marketing and things of that nature. But in terms of getting into the industry, I've always chosen a field that I was personally interested in. And I know it's the cliche of you'll never work a day in your life, but that's always been true for me. I'm an incredibly competitive person, and I always like to make sure that whoever I'm working with or working for sees results from what I'm doing. And if they see results from what I'm doing, then I'm always going to grow and be given other opportunities that maybe others wouldn't be given. And now, as an employer who's owned their own business for a few years now, I look for several things when I'm looking for a candidate to hire, whether it be in Boston or New York. But in terms of getting started, I would say I chose an industry that I knew I would be interested in and want to work in and work for, and that's sort of how I've grown my career, but it's been a lot of work along the way.
I got started with TJX actually through the co-op program here at Northeastern. I was a marketing major, trying to figure out what I was going to do with that. It's such a broad major. I thought I wanted to go into corporate marketing. I did a great co-op with GE, but I realized that corporate marketing wasn't exactly what I thought it was. So for my last co-op, I wanted to try something a little bit different. I also am a shopper of the TJX store, so that helped. And I found that through interviewing for the allocation analyst position with TJX, I found that it was really a combination of what I liked about corporate marketing, which was crunching the numbers and analyzing data, but also it combined the love of product and fashion and the newest trends that are out there. So I came through the merchandise planning track at TJX, so it starts out as the allocation analyst position. You go all the way through into more of a managerial role within planning, and then from there you can get promoted into buying if that's something that you're interested in. So that was my track over the last 2 years with the company, and now I'm associate buyer. And it's really just been such a great experience. I found that my experience through merchandise planning really gives me the perspective of knowing what works, knowing what doesn't, because that's what you do in planning. You really try to drive sales through looking at trends. So, like we mentioned, knowing your target customer, coming through planning really showed me what at HomeGoods our target customer likes, because I'm not exactly our target customer, I'm a little bit younger than our target customer. So I had to learn through the last 2 years what works and what doesn't for the person that we're buying for. So now I'm really in the beginning of my buying career, but I feel like starting through the co-op program really gave me a good basis to start my career in merchandising.
I went to school. My mom said that I should go to school for interior design because I did not know exactly what I wanted to do. I liked art. I was creative, so I went, and I hated it. And I hated the school. I went to a school that I thought was close to a city. I'm from Maine, and all I wanted to do was be in a city with people that just wanted to create all the time and were fun and different, and so that was awful. So I went home, I went back to Maine, and I worked in this little retail store for about 2 years. I knew I wanted to go back to college, and what ended up happening was I kind of ended up running that entire store. So then I found Drexel, and I moved to Philadelphia. I was in Pennsylvania before, and I liked it. So I moved there on my own and went to Drexel. They had a program that was design and merchandising, which I liked because I wanted to be part of the business side, but also part of the design side too. So while I was in school, I worked retail, and I will be honest, I hate retail. I'm very good at it, but I don't like it. But I did it for a reason, because that's another side of the business that you don't see when you're sitting behind a chair the whole time. So I talked to consumers, I figured out what they liked and what they didn't like. I got to play more with all the visual merchandising that I did. And so I worked for BCBG while I was there, and then I went and worked for Burberry. So 2 different places. They have different aesthetic, different thought processes, different design, different consumers. So that was really helpful for me. Then I had to do a co-op too, and since it was a transfer, I tried to opt out of it, which wouldn't have put me where I was today. So I went and did my co-op with Puma, and then I stayed with Puma, and I overall worked with, there were 6 different merchandisers, specifically in footwear. So I worked for all of them by myself, and it wasn't fun at times, but hard work pays off. Just stick with it. That's one thing I have to say, is hard work does pay off. And now I am working for Team Sport as a merchandiser. So I actually just got back from Germany on Sunday. That's where our headquarters are, and I get to see the whole line of product for the entire world. And then what I have to do is I have to pare down what I want my assortment to be for all of our wholesale accounts. So for me to do that, again, I look at planning, I look at sell-through. I also have to look at how much the product costs, if we can make any money on selling it in the United States. If not, we have to negotiate with factories. I also have to work on design, so if I see that I made a lot of money in a certain short last year and International didn't provide me with that short this year, I may have to do what's an SMU, so I would make my own product just for the United States. So then I get to work with design more, which I really like. So I don't have a typical day. My day is whatever happens, emails shoot all day long, things come up, but I like the busyness, the change of it, and I get to do a lot of things that I like every day. So it is fun. It's hard work, but it's fun.
I went to Northeastern University and I studied political science. I had to do an internship and I decided it wasn't the right career path for me. So I figured I want to get into the fashion industry. So I figured, okay, I don't know how to sew, but I really want to be a fashion designer, so I guess I'll be a buyer. So I went to school, finished up my education at FITM in LA, and then in school I realized that in order to be a fashion designer you don't have to sew, because that's what sample sewers are for. So I thought, oh, this is perfect. So I got my degree in fashion design and got a job while I was still in school as a design room assistant. So that means doing cost sheets, counting buttons, sending out trims to get dye, just all of the more like assistant work. And my next job was an associate designer, and then I just kind of worked my way up, going from job to job as the next level. And then I started a company called Crash and Burn, which does kind of novelty rock and roll inspired apparel, and I ran that company for about 7 years, and then I sold it to my business partner after I had children. I wanted to take some time off, and then I grew up in Massachusetts, so I figured, okay, might as well take the kids back home to be raised. So then I started working at Reebok. It's a lot harder, in the garment industry, because you're only as good as your current collection that's selling. For past seasons, you can't really rest on your laurels. Everything kind of has to be in season and on trend, and it has to sell. And then once it sells, it actually has to retail. So it's a lot of work, but it's worth it in the end, because if you see somebody walking down the street, like in your design, it's kind of like, oh, it's kind of worth it.